Most financial advisors will tell you that the keys to surviving an economic downturn are diversification, stock market hedges, and liquid capital. But the most successful economic survival strategy ever recorded didn't come from Wall Street or a modern central bank. It was designed thousands of years ago in the court of an Egyptian pharaoh by an imprisoned Hebrew who had spent years forgotten in a dungeon. This is the story of Joseph. To many, it's simply a story about a colorful coat and family betrayal. But Genesis chapter 41 is also a remarkable case study in economic planning, wealth psychology, supply chain management, and crisis leadership. Everything began with a dream that shook the ruler of the most powerful nation in the ancient world. Pharaoh dreamed of 7 healthy, well-fed cows emerging from the Nile, only to be devoured by 7 thin, starving cows. Then he dreamed of 7 full heads of grain, swallowed by 7 withered heads scorched by the desert wind. None of Egypt's wisest advisors, priests, or magicians could explain what the dreams meant. Then Joseph was brought before Pharaoh. Freshly shaved and dressed after years in prison, he stood before the most powerful man in the world. Joseph explained that the dreams were not merely symbolic, they were a forecast of the future. Egypt would experience 7 years of extraordinary abundance, followed immediately by 7 years of devastating famine. The repetition of the dream meant that the event had been firmly established and would happen soon. But Joseph did more than interpret the dream. He offered a strategy. He understood something about human nature that remains true today. When times are good, people assume they will always remain good. They spend freely, expand their lifestyles, take unnecessary risks, and fail to prepare for the future. Prosperity often creates complacency. Joseph knew that if Egypt consumed everything it produced during the years of abundance, the nation would be defenseless when famine arrived. So he proposed a bold economic policy. During the 7 prosperous years, Egypt should collect 1/5, 20% of all agricultural produce and store it in secure cities across the nation. The surplus would become a national reserve, protecting the people during the years of scarcity. This is one of history's earliest recorded examples of systematic emergency planning. It wasn't simply about collecting taxes. It was about preserving surplus today to guarantee survival tomorrow. Pharaoh immediately recognized Joseph's wisdom and placed him in charge of the entire operation. For 7 years, Joseph supervised the collection and storage of grain throughout Egypt. The harvests became so abundant that Genesis says the grain was like the sand of the sea. Eventually, the quantity became so immense that record-keeping was abandoned because it was beyond measure. Then, everything changed. The years of abundance ended, and the famine began exactly as Joseph had predicted. The disaster wasn't limited to Egypt. It spread across neighboring lands, destroying harvests and creating widespread food shortages. While surrounding nations descended into desperation, Egypt remained prepared because its reserves had been built long before the crisis began. As food disappeared everywhere else, people traveled from distant regions to buy grain from Egypt. What happened next became one of the greatest economic consolidations recorded in the ancient world. At first, people purchased grain with money. When their silver was exhausted, they exchanged their livestock. When their animals were gone, they sold their land. Eventually, many even pledged their labor in exchange for food and seed to survive. By the end of the famine, Pharaoh had gained ownership of nearly all the land, livestock, and productive labor throughout Egypt. The nation emerged from the crisis more centralized and economically powerful than before. Although the process appears severe from a modern perspective, it preserved countless lives during one of history's worst famines. Without Joseph's preparation, millions could have faced starvation. The principles behind Joseph's strategy remain surprisingly relevant today. Economic winters are unavoidable. Recessions happen. Businesses fail. Jobs disappear. Unexpected emergencies arise. The question is not whether difficult seasons will come, but whether we will be prepared when they arrive. Joseph's 20% principle reminds us that the surplus generated during seasons of abundance should not be consumed without thought. It should become tomorrow's security. Those who save and prepare during prosperous seasons are far more likely to remain stable during difficult ones. Those who consume everything they earn often find themselves forced to sell valuable assets simply to survive. Joseph built granaries before the famine ever appeared. That foresight transformed a coming disaster
into an opportunity for survival and stability. Perhaps the greatest lesson of Joseph's story is this: wisdom is not proven by how we manage abundance, but by how well abundance prepares us for scarcity. If you enjoyed this ancient financial breakdown, subscribe for more biblical insights through the lens of history, psychology, and economics. Leave a comment with your thoughts on Joseph's 20% rule, and share this with someone who is building wisely for the future.